Wattson split in Pokemon Run and Gun gets really tough, with two scary boss trainers, Chelle and leader Wattson himself. We're gonna break down the best encounters and strategies to get through one of the more frustrating sections of this demonic game. First things first, the level cap after beating Roxanne jumps from 25 to 32. This offers a ton of new evolutions. Ampharos, Salazzle, Clawitzer, Meganium, Sharpedo, Pangoro, and Pidgeot are just a few examples of Pokemon that you get access to with this new cap. Out of all the trainers on Route 116, the only ones that are really worth mentioning are School Kid Jerry and Youngster Johnson. If you choose to do these fights after Roxanne, it's really not too bad.
Yeah, boy.
The rest of the trainers preceding Rusturf Tunnel are relatively straightforward, and the tunnel itself offers a variety of pretty interesting encounters. Teddiursa is a super interesting one, considering it really doesn't do a lot as an Ursaring. However, if you happen to catch a Surskit that has a 5% chance to hold honey, you can get Ursaluna as early as right now. Otherwise, it still ends up paying off if you can get it to Lava Ridge, where you can buy honey in the Pokemart. Alolan Geodude and Roggenrola are decent encounters, both of which have 50-50 ability splits. With Geodude, getting Magnapole is really nice, as it gives you higher chance to get important Steel-type Pokemon like Togedemaru and Excadrill. Roggenrola gets either Clear Body or Solid Rock, with the latter being the much more preferred of the two. Gligar is a pretty solid encounter, and it gets really valuable as a Gliscor. Rockruff is an interesting one since it can evolve into any of its three forms. You can get Midnight as early as Rustboro City with a Moonstone, Standard Lycanroc once getting to Mauville with a Sunstone, and Dusk all the way in Fall Arbor with a Duskstone. All three forms are honestly pretty decent, with each of them having their own niche for different points of the game. Swinub and Sandile are great for post-Chelle Wattson split. I'd recommend delaying Swinub for Ancient Power at 35 in case you need to use a rare candy to evolve into Mamoswine for Wattson. For Sandile, it's generally a good idea to delay evolving it until 34 for high horsepower. Both are great rare candy options for Wattson. Lastly, Trapinch is often worth delaying all the way to level 44 for first impression, since neither Flagon nor Vibrava learn it by level up. In the tunnel itself lies Moxie Slayer Hiker Mike, who boasts a moderately impressive sand team consisting of a Sandrush Stoutland that can definitely claim a life if you aren't careful. One neat little trick for this fight is using something like Worry Seed or Entrainment on the Sandaconda, since Sandspit activates even if you Oko the snake. That way you don't have to deal with Sandforce Probopass or Sandrush Stoutland. Verdanturf is home to a variety of great encounters. Roselia, Fungus, and Weepinbell can all be great for Wattson, with Roselia and Fungus holding up pretty well for a lot of mid-game. Victreebel has some niches as well with Chlorophyll, but is overall more underwhelming than the other two grass poison types. Phanpy and Mudbray are really solid, bulky ground types that offer a lot to any box. There isn't a ton to say about them other than Phanpy having an insane moveset with Knockoff, Ice Shard, Rapid Spin, and Bulldoze. Both Niddos are great defensive typings, but they can kind of struggle offensively. They aren't bad Pokemon really, and they can even counter Wattson's Zeraora with the right IVs, but they most likely aren't going to be a run MVP or anything like that. Petalil is fantastic. The only downside is that it isn't really usable until after you beat Chelle and get access to Evolution Stones. Regular Lilligant is a decently fast special attacker with access to Leaf Storm, and Hisui Lilligant is a fast physical attacker with close combat and Leaf Blade. Both are fantastic Pokemon throughout the entire game. Fluffy is a solid, bulky electric type that holds up well throughout the majority of the game, while Breloom can be a really good Pokemon on Piplup and Turtwig runs. It gets kind of overshadowed by Infernape, but Poison Heal can be a really nice niche to wall certain Pokemon. The Route 117 trainers are honestly pretty scary, with Breeder Corgi, the double battle immediately following it, Battle Girl Luna, and the Discharge double battle being standouts. Corgi's team of Pooches can be really frustrating, especially the Furfrou. Attract is incredibly annoying, on top of having leftovers for passive recovery and Fur Coat to tank most physical hits. Generally, I like to drop Furfrou's speed and attack if possible and chip away at it with stuff like Togedemaru and Dreadnought. Brandy and Aisha are a double battle, leading in Orbeetle and Toxicroak. This fight really isn't too bad, especially if you have a Mon to Oko the psychic types like Centiskorch or Sharpedo. Battle Girl Luna is a tricky one, specifically the Electivire, Grapploct, and Quagsire. Electivire's Citrus Berry is surprisingly annoying, and there isn't a ton of stuff that can Oko it. Stuff like Donphan risks freeze, but I'd recommend pre-poisoning if you're worried about that. Grapploct can hit like a truck due to Technician, but stuff like Masquerain, Musharna, and Worry Seed Roselia can handle it. Quagsire has a Rindo Berry and lives most grass type hits. It's usually countered by baiting an Earthquake into a grass type, pre-burn or poisoning to avoid freeze, and 2-hit KOing with a grass type move. Lastly, Anna and Meg are the hardest non-boss trainers of this split. Like seriously, this double battle is awful to plan for. The gimmick here is a Mulga holding a Metronome spamming Discharge into Lightning Rod special attackers, and it can get out of hand really fast. A good lead for this fight is Togedemaru and Dreadnought, with Togi dropping a Fake Out into a Mulga and Dreadnought rock sliding the entire field. From there, it's usually a lot easier to deal with the rest of the team. Grass and ground types are also great for pivoting, but overall this fight is really tough. Trainer Chelle is a rival-like character introduced in Run and Gun that's infamous in the community due to how incredibly fair her entire team is, sporting a practically guaranteed crit Togekiss, this monstrosity of a Delcatty, and a Galar Slowbro that has nearly a 50% chance to move first. This team is no joke. Generally, fighting types are solid leads against her Lapras. The Hitmons, as well as Guts, Hariyama, and Girder, can be especially potent depending on their stat spreads, and pre-burn can ignore Sing entirely. Rhydon usually gets knocked out by a strong special attacking water type, but just be wary of Stealth Rocks since he can set those if he either doesn't see a kill at all or sees a slow kill. The aforementioned Togekiss is a crit monster and can single-handedly send a run back to truck faster than you can follow me on Twitch.
Oh, brother!
Depending on your IVs, Hisui, Growlithe, Ampharos, and Luxray can be decent checks, but by far the best I found is Salazzle. For the price of 1 scale, Encore is your best friend, and it holds up for the entire run. In my most recent shell fight, I used Salazzle Encore to take out Delcatty and Togekiss. For Delcatty, switching it on Fake Out does do a decent chunk of HP, but after you get the Encore off, it's smooth sailing from there. You pretty much need to use a normal resist to deal with this thing. Dreadnought is probably the best answer I found, with Shell Armor making it no problem at all. Vespiquen is probably Shell's least threatening mon. It usually collapses to pretty much any rock type, and a lot of them don't have much of a problem outspeeding it either. Lastly, Shell's greatest skill check is her Slowbro. Quick Draw combined with Quick Claw gives this guy a 44% chance to move first. Bulky ground types are decent counters, but Whirlpool combined with Quick Claw, Zen Headbutt flinch chances can be really scary. Donphan, Mudsdale, and Mightyena are all good options, but nothing has worked as consistently for me as Crawdon. Knockoff can not only OHKO, but also gets rid of the Quick Claw, giving it a lower chance to move first if you don't KO. Shell can be pretty daunting, and she ends a ton of runs. After Shell, the level cap jumps to 35, which gives you access to Pokemon like Talonflame, Obstagoon, Rhydon, and Aurorus. More importantly, the Pokemart in Mauville City sells most Evolution Stones, giving you access to both Lilligant's, Roserade, Victreebel, Electros, Hisui Arcanine, both Exeggutor, and most other mons that evolve through a stone. Wattson's gym trainers aren't exceptionally difficult or anything. I think the only one really worth talking about is the double battle at the end. This fight isn't really hard, it's just a matter of baiting guaranteed kills into one side while one of your ground types starts taking stuff out. Yanmega, Vivillon, and Tortuga are great at baiting electric moves into them while they protect, while a ground type on the other side goes crazy. Wattson himself can be pretty tough. On paper, this team looks insane. A Zeraora at the third gym just seems ridiculous, but it's all surprisingly manageable. First off, the Magnezone has a sturdy Custat Berry set with a very high chance to explode if it's at 1 HP. I like to either lead a mon like Diggersby or Donphan that can get it to 1 HP and then KO with a priority move. Custat Berry only makes you move first in your priority bracket, so stuff like Quick Attack and Ice Shard will still beat out the Custat Berry. Alternatively, you can lead something with Fake Out that baits Discharge, like Floatzel or Togedemaru, and swap into a ground type that outspeeds after breaking the Sturdy. Rotom Fan is kind of tricky since you usually need a specific Pokemon to deal with it. Stuff like Hisui Arcanine and Aurorus can be pretty good counters, but I've also used Seismic Toss Ampharos for example. Wattson's Lantern is really annoying. It can be a big box check or crit check if you don't have a good enough grass type to deal with it. Another option is to Toxic Stall it with Tentacruel plus something that's immune to Discharge. As for grass types, Roserade and Ludicolo are probably the two best at dealing with it. Zeraora looks really threatening, but actually has a surprising amount of counters. Both Nidoking and Nidoqueen can deal with it pretty well, although I'd recommend delaying them for Drill Run and Earth Power respectively before Wattson. By far my favorite strategy for Zeraora is pivoting between something that baits Grass Knot, like Seismitoad, and Talonflame, who baits Plasma Fists. You can easily fish for Flame Body chances. From here, you can pivot until it eventually dies. Togedemaru makes this even easier, since you can alternate Fake Outs plus Iron Barb's chip damage on Grass Knots. Amoonguss is another solid answer, as it resists everything besides Knockoff. Electros can be big trouble, especially if it starts setting up coils. I've seen Victreebel, Exeggutor, Serena, and of course Torterra used for this guy. He's only really a problem if he gets multiple coils set up, so just try to avoid letting him boost. Lastly, Ampharos is pretty straightforward. A good ground type usually deals with it pretty well, with Torterra being my preferred choice. Just remember that you can get crit due to Mold Breaker, and that you're gonna want to hold a Cherry Berry. If you like this video, I definitely recommend checking out the previous two I made on Brawly Split and Roxanne Split. If you want to check out this insanely difficult game live, give me a follow over on Twitch. I stream Run and Bun practically every single day. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the content. Let me know your favorite Pokemon to use in Run and Bun in the comment section below.